What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Ken Arnold Fishing. Today's video, we're going to talk about dirty water. Like really dirty water. As I already said in today's video, we're going to talk about how to catch fish in dirty water. I'll go through and show you the different lures that I use in dirty water. And right now, that's a little bit different because we got some, as I say in this next section, we've got pre-spawn fish, spawning fish, and then some post-spawn fish. But in this video, we're more worried about the pre-spawners and just the regular spawners. This video is broken up into sections. We're going to go back and forth for me on the lake, and I'm going to tell you why I do what I do and for what reason. So, let's get into this. But we got fish on beds. We got some, I think we still got some pre-spawn fish, and we still got some, or now we have some post-spawn fish roaming around. So we're going to try to catch a couple. I'm going to show you once again, but in person, how I catch these fish. And we'll see what we can put together. Not really sure how it'll go. Hopefully you'll learn something though. That's the goal, learn something. So while there's a lot of fish on beds right now, I'm going to start off with throwing like a reaction type bait, like the spinner bait. And then I'm going to slow down to a something more finesse if I get a bite, because you know that could be either a post-spawn or a pre-spawn fish, and it could also be a bedding fish. And if it's a bedding fish, I'm going to go over that area a couple times with, you know, like a weightless worm or something like that to get that female or the male to bite, whichever one it takes. So this wind is probably terrible, but we're gonna chunk this around a little bit, move around a little bit, and I'll come back whenever something cool happens. So as I said in that little section there, I started off with a spinner bait, a reaction bait. I usually don't start off with reaction baits like that whenever fish are spawning and such, because they're a little bit more finicky. But in this case, I used them because I was pretty sure we already had some post-spawn fish. I didn't catch any, but I'm pretty sure that they're there. And as I said, afterwards, I slowed down to a weightless type worm, because if you get a bite on the spinner bait, or even if you don't, you can still pick apart an area once again and go over it 2 or 3 times with a weightless lure like this, because this gets in their face and it just sits there, and they will eat it if you put it in the right place. And that's kind of my mindset behind this, and you'll see it later in this video, because the spinnerbait does not work for me at this time, and it's just going to something like this is a form of adapting, and adapting in this kind of water is really important. It's important anywhere, but in dark water, I think it's really, really important. Made a little spot change. We are still in some very dirty water. Still throwing spinnerbait. One of the most important things that you can do when fishing anywhere, but especially muddy water, is comb over the area really, really good. Some of the fish I've been catching lately, I've had to cast into them, 9, 10, up to probably 20 times on some of these fish to get them to bite. And it may be because, they're spawning, or they may just not see it, because this water is literally chocolate milk. So we're going to keep combing places over the spinnerbait, then run back through with like a weightless worm, something like that, something more subtle. So yeah, let's go do that real quick and see what happens. So I went ahead and made the change to a weightless white worm. I usually use black and blue in this colored water, but I don't have any left. 14-pound Bushido fluorocarbon. I'm only using a 7-foot medium rod. Probably need to use a medium. Got a heavy over there, but it's got braid, and I didn't bring my scissors with me, so I don't know. But we're going to see what this does. It may or may not work, but we'll find out. So when you know that there's fish on beds like that, it's good to change up to something like a weightless worm or a shaky head or even a drop shot. I've seen people throw drop shots on beds. It works. One of the things I mentioned was that black and blue worm. I like a black and blue like this one here, because they can see the silhouette of the lure better than your natural, green pumpkin and stuff. But I didn't bring any with me. I didn't have any of these with me. I didn't have any of the paddle tail ones either. If I did, I probably wouldn't have thrown the spinnerbait, because the paddle tail ones I can turn into a weightless worm like this really quick by pinching the tail off. But what I went with was a white one like this, a white weightless worm. In fact, this exact same colored one. And the reason for that is because there's actually a lot of shad back there. You see shad popping around, and they're smaller than this. They're not full-size shad, they're little shad, but the white kind of gives it the same color. Sometimes I'll put like a chartreuse dye on there to give it kind of that shad profile. It's not like a sexy shad color, but it more than gets the job done. And here's a prime example. Alright, so I just missed my first hook set. It was a decent fish. I don't think it was huge, but it was definitely a keeper. Let me show you how I'm fishing this, because this is really, really specific. Not really specific, but it's important. You throw it out at your target, like so. And you let it sink for a few seconds. And then you either sit there and shake it, like I was doing on that last fish that I just missed, or you just raise it up and let it fall back down. Two very, very good ways to catch fish on a weightless worm. It works a lot. I recommend not doing what I did. You need to let the fish hold it for a second, because I felt the fish and I set the hook on it, and I should have waited a moment or two, but that's not how it worked. So we're gonna keep fishing and try it again. So yeah, as you can see, I made that change and got that bite on my second or third cast. And then, I kind of show you a little bit on how to fish it. Sit there and shake it, raise your rod tip, all that. One thing I also do, though, is I fish it kind of like a jerkbait. I sit there and I jerk it, because it gives it some action. It kind of looks like a fleeing bait fish, stuff like that. And it's a good way to catch fish. It's a really good way to catch fish. Something I didn't mention while I was doing my little on the water seminar there is how to know you have a bite and what to do when you get one. So whenever you get a bite, sometimes, you'll feel pressure, it'll feel heavy, or sometimes you'll feel the line running off. One of my favorite ways to do it is I'll sit there and watch the line, and it'll go tick, and then it'll start moving away. And that's when you know that you've probably got a fish. And when that happens, what you need to do, and what I didn't do on that first fish, you need to give it just a second. Reel up the slack, and then, I power drive the hook. I don't know if that's exactly the best thing to do, but that's how I do it, and it generally works. In this case, I was using a lighter rod than I should have, so I kind of had to do that. We'll go over my setup and stuff in a few minutes. Yeah. So yeah, you hear me talk about this little lure quite a bit. Like I said, it catches a lot of bass, but sometimes it catches other stuff too. Let's take a look at that. Okay, so this is not the right kind, but it is a fish. I caught a fish. It's a freaking catfish, but I still caught a fish. So that's all that matters. Pretty cool, actually. And he wanted it. Sure did. Now he won't give me my worm back. Yeah, I got the hook out, he won't give me my worm back, whatever. So yeah, I caught a catfish on a weightless worm. And real quick, I'll show you what I caught it in. I wasn't expecting this, but that's how I caught it. What I did was I threw it in, and I sat there and shook it. I might have said it in the video, I don't remember. I sat there and shook it, and my line went tick, and moved a little bit, and I set the hook, and there was a catfish. But this is the kind of stuff that I was flipping my little white weightless worm into. I don't know how well you can see it, but there's trees all over the place over there. And I flipped my weightless worm over there, and he just sat there and chomped on it. And he actually kept my worm too, which kind of sucks, but I'm glad I have more. Anyway, I'm gonna go try to catch one of those little green fish we call bass, because those are the primary species right now. And so after that fish, I went back to the same spot again, and I had another bite, which I think was really good. But time was running out. It was starting to get dark, and I decided that I would leave and go check out this bed. I caught fish on this bed, or in and around this bed before, and then the other day I went out and I had a couple bites on it too. One of which I caught, and it was a little male. I might throw a picture up, I don't know. But I went back, tossed my worm in there. A couple of my buddies showed up, and they were asking me how I fish this area, and I got to show them, and I told them the same thing that I'm telling you. So here's what happened. All right, so I finally caught one. This one, I'm pretty sure, is on a bed. If you can see its tail,
on this little weightless worm.
I caught what I'm pretty sure was the female off of that bed. She was pretty thick and all that. Her tail was messed up some. But the way that I caught that fish is actually really important, especially to fishing this lure. Usually you want like a heavier rod. I had a 7'4", but I was actually using a 7-foot medium. And the key to using a lighter rod like that is using a smaller gauge hook. I was using a 3/0 hook for this, and it wasn't one of the heavy like flipping hooks. It was really thin. It was enough that that little rod could get the hook in its mouth. Another important key here is the line. I was using 14-pound Bushido fluorocarbon from Fishing FX and American Tackle Company, and without the sensitivity that fluorocarbon has, I wouldn't have felt that fish, because I caught that fish by feeling it. I didn't get to see my line move. I felt it. So that was also really important. Like I said before, whenever you hook set on a fish like that, you want to reel up the slack, and wait a second. But I just reeled up the slack and set the hook because I was using a slower gear ratio reel. I was using a 5-to-1 reel. So that's really important whenever you're fishing stuff like that. Generally, people want a faster reel. For my setup, I was using a slower reel, and it did its job. So fishing dirty water can be a struggle sometimes. It can be hard to do. Those fish can't see as well. They're using vibrations a lot to feed. So I'm using lures that are really, really loud. A frog, a white frog is one of my favorites. I also throw a black frog out there. Whenever I know that the fish are on beds and I have to be subtle, I'll use something like this, something white that they can see. Like I said, spinnerbait lets off a lot of vibration. Usually people use like a Colorado blade and a white or a white and chartreuse. But I was using a giant willow leaf blade in this copper color, bronze color, I forget what they're called. And it's got a little willow leaf silver blade up front. So I like to keep it pretty simple. Sometimes I put rattles in my frog. Chatterbait works good. Walking bait, stuff like that. Something that makes noise. Even this little mouse. Yeah, I have a mouse. I haven't used it yet, but I have a mouse. Yeah, this video is probably kind of long and drawn out, but I wanted to show you guys how I catch fish in dirty water, especially during the spawn, because right now a lot of people wouldn't have the patience to do this. But anyway, I want to thank you guys for watching this episode of Ken Arnold Fishing. I lost a bet and I have purple nails. I will see you guys later. Thanks for watching.